It happened at 6:42 in the morning, which sounds like a random detail until you really think about it because that time of day matters. It's not night anymore, but it's not fully morning either. The city's awake enough to function, but not awake enough to question things. People move on routine, not curiosity. And that's exactly how I was moving that morning, on routine, on muscle memory. Same parking spot, same walk, same quiet mental checklist running through my head about the surgery I was about to perform. Triple bypass, high-risk patient, narrow margins, the kind of operation where you don't get to be distracted, not even for a second. And then just like that, a police cruiser rolled up next to me, window down, engine humming, and a voice said, "You need to leave this parking lot, now." For a second, I honestly thought he was joking or talking to someone behind me because I'd been walking that exact path for years. "I work here," I said, pointing down at my badge without even really thinking about it. "I'm a surgeon. I'm heading to my shift." And the officer didn't look at the badge, didn't ask a question, didn't slow the moment down even a little. He just said, "I don't care what you claim. You're loitering." Loitering. Yeah, that happened. I remember blinking like my brain needed a reset because I was wearing scrubs. My hospital ID was clipped to my chest, my car was parked in a marked employee space, and somehow we were already here at loitering. I said, probably a little sharper than I meant to, "I'm walking to work. My badge is right here." And that's when he finally looked. Really looked and smiled in that way that tells you the decision's already been made. He said, "You think I'm falling for a fake badge and a costume this early?" That was the moment something inside me dropped. Not fear, exactly, not anger yet, more like clarity. Because up until then, there was still a part of me trying to believe this was a misunderstanding, that maybe he was tired, maybe he was new, maybe this would resolve in 5 seconds once he actually processed what he was seeing. But when he said that, I knew. This wasn't confusion, this was assumption. He stepped out of the car, big guy, confident hand resting near his belt, not drawing his weapon, just close enough to make sure I noticed. Turn around, hands on the hood. And I stood there for a beat longer than I should have because 1,000 thoughts hit me all at once. If I argue, this escalates. If I move wrong, this escalates. If I comply, I survive this moment, even if it costs me my dignity. And I remember thinking, I have a patient upstairs whose chest is about to be opened, whose life depends on steady hands, so I turned around. The hood was warm, engine heat still radiating through the metal, my palms flat, fingers spread heart, suddenly pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The cuffs came out fast, too fast, wrist twisted back, metal biting into my skin, and he said I was being detained for trespassing. Trespassing. In my own workplace. In the parking lot where I'd parked 5 days a week for years. And I would love to tell you I said something brilliant in that moment, something cinematic and powerful, but the truth is I didn't. I went quiet, because quiet is what keeps you alive when power dynamics tilt that hard. Then I heard someone running. "Officer, what are you doing?" A nurse I'd worked with for years. Lena, her badge bouncing against her chest, disbelief written all over her face. "That's Dr. Hale," she said. "He's one of our surgeons." Another voice joined in, louder, sharper. "Are you serious right now, Andrew from the ER? A guy who'd watched me crack chests in trauma bays at 3 in the morning, who'd trusted me with patients he couldn't save on his own." "That's Marcus," he said. "He works here." And suddenly there were people stopping, slowing down, phones coming out, that subtle shift when an interaction turns into a scene. I spoke carefully then because every word felt like it weighed 100 pounds. "My ID has been visible the entire time. My medical license is in my wallet, my car is in a marked employee spot. I've worked here for 10 years. And for the first time since this started, the officer actually looked around, looked at the building, looked at the badges, looked at my jacket collar where my surgical loops were tucked inside. The cuffs came off. "I apologize for the confusion," he said. Confusion. I flexed my wrists, already red, already bruising, and I said, "You called my badge a costume." Phones were definitely recording now. Someone always records. "Call administration," I said, "and call my attorney." He walked back to his cruiser and drove off without another word. By noon, the video was everywhere. By evening, millions of people had seen it. By the next morning, the department had suspended him, pending investigation. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. I didn't operate that day. I stood in an office, shaking, adrenaline still flooding my system, knowing another surgeon would step in, knowing the patient would be okay, but feeling like I had failed someone I promised I'd take care of. You carry that kind of guilt quietly. It doesn't make headlines. The investigation did what these investigations always seem to do when someone finally looks closely. It found patterns, stops, detentions, All minorities, all justified with the same vague language. Suspicious behavior. Didn't belong. No real cause, no actual crimes. The officer was fired. I filed a civil rights lawsuit not because I needed the money, I didn't, but because accountability matters, and because I knew this wasn't just about me. The city settled fast. $500,000. Mandatory reforms. Oversight. Public reporting. Training. The kind of changes that only seem to happen after someone gets hurt or humiliated or almost doesn't make it home. The officer never worked in law enforcement again. I still work at Riverside. Same parking lot, same spot. But now I clip my badge on before I even open my car door. Not because I should have to, because this is the reality we're navigating. And here's the thing I want you to sit with. If someone as clearly identifiable, as credentialed, as established as me can be reduced to a threat in under 10 seconds, what does that mean for people without badges?